If you've looked at the news headlines lately, you know the climate crisis is no longer some future threat. It's here. And it's manifesting, maybe most visibly, through these escalating, really intense droughts across the globe. But what if that drought isn't just an environmental problem? What if it's exposing a fundamental weakness, a profound fragility in the one system we absolutely cannot live without, our global food supply?
And that is the crucial starting point for this deep dive. The research we've analyzed for you, it makes a devastating argument
Which is what?
that the dominant industrial agricultural model, the one built on the simplified logic of the Green Revolution, is fundamentally brittle by design.
Brittle by design.
Yeah. Drought is just the hammer that's exposing what a house of cards we've built for our dinner plate.
Okay, so let's untack that instability. We're talking
Yeah.
about a system that's susceptible not just to water scarcity.
Right. But also to catastrophic floods, rapid soil degradation because the soil is just starved of organic matter, and of course, the ongoing collapse of essential pollinator populations.
It's a threat to hundreds of millions of livelihoods. So what's our mission today?
Well, it's to show you that the solution isn't some expensive, brand new silver bullet technology waiting to be invented in a lab.
The blueprints for resilience already exist.
They do. The path forward is what the research identifies as a dual imperative.
Okay.
On one hand, we have to actively revitalize the sophisticated, proven agroecological systems that indigenous and local communities have stewarded for generations. Systems that are, inherently drought-proof.
And on the other hand,
We need to strategically dismantle and defund the fragile agro-industrial model that has pushed these resilient practices to the very edge of irrelevance.
and what's so frustrating is that this isn't some obscure new concern. International agreements, like the Convention on Biological Diversity, they've been paying lip service to this for decades.
For decades, but there's been a profound implementation failure.
So the words are there, but the action isn't.
Exactly. The rhetoric is there, but the necessary funding, the political will, the government subsidies, they have consistently failed to shift away from the brittle industrial system. The gap between what we say we value and what we actually fund is just vast.
Which brings us to this dangerous pattern we see when institutions respond to the crisis. A kind of tunnel vision.
Yeah, that's a good way to... The dominant strategy when faced with drought or crop failure, even in frameworks like the UN's Sustainable Development Goals, specifically SDG 2, Zero Hunger, is to just double down on high-tech fixes.
The focus is almost exclusively on technological solutions that just maintain the status quo.
It is. Think genetically engineered crops designed for drought tolerance in a lab, or these massive, complex, energy-intensive irrigation projects that are often unsustainable themselves in the long run.
But hold on, doesn't that make sense? I mean, if a crop is failing due to lack of water, shouldn't we engineer it to use less water or just build a bigger dam? Isn't that efficiency?
It looks like efficiency on the surface, but it's a dangerous kind of tunnel vision. Because those solutions, they address a single point of failure, like that one specific crop variety dying in one dry season. But they completely ignore the fundamental systemic instability of simplified monocultures. You might save one field of corn this year, sure, but you haven't solved the problem that the entire landscape is fundamentally fragile to begin with.
So the industrial model, with its high inputs and simplification, it's essentially trading short-term yield spikes for long-term stability.
Precisely. You strip the land of its natural diversity, you rely on chemicals and fossil fuels to maintain productivity, and you sacrifice the intrinsic resilience the land used to possess.
You might get incredible yields now.
Exactly, now. But you have zero built-in insurance against the climatic uncertainty that is only increasing year after year. The system is designed for predictability in an era when predictability is gone.
Okay, so if the Green Revolution model is collapsing under its own weight, where do we find this insurance? Where are these living blueprints for resilience that you mentioned earlier?
We look to the systems that have survived, that have adapted, and that have fed millions for centuries. The sources are so clear on this. These traditional systems are absolutely not relics of the past to be preserved in a museum.
They're active solutions.
They are, quite literally, living blueprints for long-term food security and climate resilience.
And this is where it gets functionally interesting, right? Because we're talking about incredibly sophisticated, multi-layered systems. Give us some names. Make this tangible for everyone listening.
Okay, the first example that always comes to mind is the Mesoamerican milpa.
The Milpa.
Yeah, it's an intercropping system that's been proven over thousands of years of variable climate.
And another huge one has to be the Enset-based agroforestry of the Ethiopian highlands.
Mm.
This is one of the most remarkable examples of resilience out there, relying on a relative of the banana that's sometimes called the false banana.
It's incredible. And then you also see the intricate Amazonian chakra systems, traditional shifting millet cultivation across parts of Africa and Asia.
So what is it that unites all these diverse, sophisticated practices across different continents?
Their resilience is not some lucky accident of evolution. It is fundamentally designed through generations of observation and management.
Designed.
Yes. The sources highlight this powerful convergence of three core elements that allow these systems to succeed where monoculture fails. High managed agrobiodiversity, a deep focus on soil health for water retention, and sophisticated management guided by what we call traditional ecological knowledge, or tech.
Let's dive into those three pillars because this is really the core mechanism. First up, agrobiodiversity is insurance. What does that functionally look like on the ground?
It's the direct pragmatic opposite of monocropping. Monocropping is placing all your bets, financial and ecological, on one single crop.
Which means failure is total.
Total. In a diversified system, you spread that risk, both genetically and structurally.
Okay, so take the Milpa system. We often hear about the famous three sisters.
Right. A Milpa farmer doesn't just plant maize. They cultivate that synergistic triumvirate of maize, climbing beans, and sprawling squash. But it doesn't stop there. This core group is often grown alongside dozens of other plants. Tomatoes, chilies, herbs.
So it's not just a random collection of plants, they're actually working together.
They are an engineered ecosystem. The beans, for instance, they fix crucial nitrogen into the soil, which feeds the heavy-feeding maize.
Right.
The squash grows low and wide, providing this dense ground cover that acts like a living mulch. It suppresses weeds, and, critically in a drought, it shades the soil to dramatically reduce moisture evaporation.
Wow. So this web of interactions is what enhances nutrient cycling and conserves the soil moisture.
It's functional biodiversity, creating built-in resilience. It's brilliant.
And the Enset system takes this idea of biodiversity as insurance to another level, acting as a true living food bank.
That's a perfect description. Unlike annual crops that you have to harvest when they're ready, the Enset plant, that false banana, it's a perennial staple.
So it sticks around.
It does. Farmers manage numerous land races, these localized varieties, each with different traits, alongside a multi-strata canopy of trees and other crops. If a drought hits for a season, the Enset doesn't necessarily die. You can leave it in the ground and harvest it months or even years later when food is scarce.
So the system buffers against climate variability in multiple ways. Genetic diversity, if one variety fails, another survives. Structural diversity, with the canopy protecting the ground, and temporal diversity, the crop itself can just wait out the crisis.
Exactly. That functional diversity is the ultimate insurance policy.
Okay, pillar 2 is critical for facing drought. Cultivating soil health. We can talk about water scarcity all day, but if the soil can't hold the rain that does fall, it's all lost.
You're absolutely right. Healthy soil structure is what determines success in a dry spell. The focus in agroecology is almost obsessively on building organic matter and structure.
To maximize water retention.
To maximize water retention. Think of degraded industrial soil. It's like a brick. Water hits it and just runs off instantly. Healthy, high organic matter soil, like in a milpa, it acts like a sponge. It absorbs, it minimizes runoff, and it holds onto moisture deep in the profile, buffering plants through weeks of dry spells. This is the ultimate tool for drought mitigation.
And finally, pillar 3, traditional ecological knowledge, or tech. This is the human element, the operating system for this whole complex environment.
It is. It's the deep, accumulated, place-based wisdom that guides the sophisticated management of all these diverse interactions. You can't effectively manage dozens of land races, a multi-strata canopy, and symbiotic relationships without a profound understanding of local microclimates, soil types, seasonal weather signs.
So tech is the management science of the diverse farm.
It absolutely is.
So if we have these successful, powerful, drought-proof models like the Milpa and Enset and the tech to guide them, why are they so neglected? Why aren't we seeing massive international aid programs funding Operation Milpa worldwide?
And that is the paradox. This is where we have to shift focus to the institutional roadblocks. This is the crucial why of the failure.
Okay.
These models are neglected because of a profound, decades-long distortion in our agricultural development paradigm. A failure captured by what the research calls the tyranny of yield.
The tyranny of yield. That suggests that high output, the very thing we celebrate in agriculture, is the problem. What do the sources mean by that?
They don't mean that producing food is bad. Of course not. They mean the problem is the singular narrow metric of success yield per hectare that has captured agricultural development for over half a century.
We only measure success by the tonnage of one or two commodity crops.
Yes, ignoring resilience, nutritional diversity, water usage, soil health, all of it.
And this singular focus has been actively maintained by this powerful nexus of actors that's been termed the corporate food regime.
Yes, the corporate food regime has a massive vested interest in simplicity. It includes transnational corporations that dominate the global seed and agrochemical markets. They profit immensely by selling simplified, patented seed varieties and high-input packages, fertilizers, pesticides that the industrial monoculture model absolutely requires.
And a diversified system inherently reduces their market share because farmers are saving their own seed and relying on ecological interactions instead of their chemical inputs.
Precisely. And what's more, the financial sector plays a huge role. It's structured to fund large-scale, predictable monocultures because they're easy to model and insure.
Right.
They view diversified smallholder systems, which are ecologically robust but financially complex, as too risky or too messy for efficient capital deployment.
And national policies just reinforce that same logic, creating a vicious cycle.
That's right. National policies and huge subsidies often prioritize commodity crops, corn, soy, wheat, that feed global supply chains and satisfy consumption habits in the global north, even when those crops are totally ill-suited to the local ecology.
So these institutional biases, they systematically devalue the resilient systems, and they marginalize the indigenous and local communities who are stewarding them.
That's the tragic result.
It's clear, then, that incremental adjustments won't work here. To unlock the potential of these drought-proof blueprints, we need a radical reset. And the research suggests this begins by completely redirecting the focus of agricultural science.
Science needs a new mandate. It has to pivot from developing silver bullet technologies that just perpetuate a failing model to illuminating the complex ecological and social dynamics that already make traditional systems resilient.
So this means we need science to help us understand the full ecosystem of these farms. We need robust data to understand the unique microbial communities in Milpa soils, or to model the hydrological benefits of Enset agroforestry.
And to validate the vast nutritional diversity of these systems with modern data, yes.
And this requires changing the entire ethos of how scientists work.
It does. The sources remind us of visionaries like Efraim Hernandez Yolocatzi, a Mexican botanist who championed Investigación de Huarache, literally sandal research.
Sandal research, I love that image. What does that imply about the kind of science we need?
It implies a profound sense of humility. It means leaving the air-conditioned lab and the test plots, putting on simple walking sandals, and going to learn with and from farmers in the field.
It's a shift from a top-down approach.
Yes, where the scientists dictate solutions to a truly farmer-centric inquiry, recognizing that the farmer holds the fundamental localized knowledge. That shift is absolutely critical.
And that philosophical shift has to be translated into concrete policy changes, or nothing will move. So what are the immediate action points required to move from the tyranny of yield to true resilience?
The sources lay out 4 immediate, concrete action points. First, redefine and reward success.
How do you actually do that? How do you measure something like resilience?
You shift the evaluation metrics entirely. You move away from singular yield per hectare numbers. Instead, you use a holistic assessment that measures total system productivity.
Meaning the combined output of everything grown.
Everything. The nutritional diversity, the agrobiodiversity conservation, and crucially, the resilience dividends they provide during stress periods. Policy and subsidies must be tied directly to rewarding diversification and verifiable soil health improvements.
That reframes the entire economic model of farming. Okay, what's the second critical point?
Center traditional ecological knowledge. Tech must be treated not as some quaint cultural artifact, but as a dynamic, vital contemporary science that has already solved many of the problems we are currently grappling with.
So establishing participatory research where scientists and indigenous farmers are equal partners.
Absolutely equal partners, co-creating solutions. And alongside that, immediately revitalizing community seed banks to conserve that invaluable genetic diversity.
The third point addresses the physical movement of food, which is where the industrial system currently dominates.
Precisely. We need to invest in messy middle ground infrastructure. The global financial system, it favors massive, simple commodity chains. To counter that, public investment must pivot to building robust local and regional markets for diverse agroecological products.
So that means funding small-scale, decentralized processing facilities, diversified storage.
Yes, and value chains that ensure more profit returns to the communities cultivating the diversity, not just the corporations shipping bulk commodities.
And finally, the foundational requirement. You can't ask a farmer to invest in a multi-year agroforestry system if they don't know who owns the land next month.
That is the fourth and perhaps most essential point. Secure land and resource tenure. Long-term agroecological investments, planting trees, building complex soil, are fundamentally impossible without secure land tenure. Legal recognition and protection of the customary rights of the communities who steward these systems is a prerequisite. It's a critical defense against displacement by large-scale projects that destroy the very knowledge we need.
This deep dive really delivers a powerful message.
It does. The intensifying drought crisis is not some temporary problem we can engineer our way out of using the same logic that created the fragility. Continuing to prop up the brittle industrial model is not a viable strategy for human civilization.
The truly transformative path lies in robustly supporting these time-tested, diverse agroecological systems.
It's not just cultural preservation. It is the strategic imperative for food security in a climate-constrained future.
So the research we've explored is unequivocal. Resilient systems thrive on managed biodiversity and complex interaction, not on simplified monocultures focused on a single metric. So take this principle and apply it outside the agricultural field for a moment. What other major global systems, our financial systems, maybe our energy supply, or even our political discourse, are currently prioritizing the tyranny of yield, the singular measurable output, at the expense of necessary functional diversity? And how brittle might they prove to be in the face of inevitable unexpected shocks? That's something to mull over the next time you think about stability.